In 2025, Cal Raleigh finished second in American League MVP voting and very well could have won after hitting 60 home runs. Meanwhile, despite another disappointing first half, Julio Rodriguez finished just 4 spots behind Cal. So what lies ahead for the Mariners' 2 superstars in the year to come? We'll discuss coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, February 27th, 2026. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Titan Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're 2 lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade, and today we're concluding our 2026 season preview by talking about the 2 faces of the Mariners franchise, Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez. So Colby, Cal goes from winning the Platinum Glove in 2024 to joining Barry Bonds and Babe Ruth and Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, Roger Maris, and one of the most exclusive clubs in all of baseball by hitting 60 home runs. And he goes on to hit 65 in total between the regular season and the postseason. He established himself as one of the best players in all of baseball. He narrowly lost the AL MVP to Aaron Judge, who also just had an incredible offensive season. But we've talked about this, right? Like hitting 60 home runs, that's a once in a lifetime type of thing. Unless, you were playing in the steroid era where like Sammy Sosa did it like 3 times and Mark McGwire did it like twice, right? But in today's day and age, that's a once in a lifetime type of thing. He is likely going to regress, but how much so?
Wow, I didn't know I was on the podcast with a Cal suppressive person, but I think he might hit 70. Right. I mean, why not? It's funny.
I don't believe in Cal Raleigh. I just hate him. I guess Gary Hill Jr. also hates Cal Raleigh because he said that it's unfair to expect him to hit 60 again the other day.
Well, we might have to ask him about that.
Spoilers.
Barry Bonds, I only hit 60 once, and he's like the greatest offensive player who ever lived. So, I think, Cal hitting 60 would be, it was impossible the first time he did it. And somehow now that he's done it, it feels even more impossible. Like, it almost feels like if he had hit 59 last year, we would have been more like, could he get to 60 this year? But because he got to 60, we're like, nah, no chance he gets there again. I think what's fair to expect from Cal is what he normally does, which is, kind of a middle of the road batting average, middle of the road on base, but he's going to slug a ton, 480, 500. He's going to hit 30 home runs. He's going to play really good defense behind the plate. It's more than fair, but the one thing that's interesting and maybe the difference between him being who he's been outside of last year versus maybe, taking that step and sustaining some kind of level of elite baseball player. And that's the improvements he made against left-handed pitching last year. How sustainable is that? Because, Cal went from a guy who was, maybe we should give him the day off against a tough lefty. That's a good time to get him off his feet to like top 5 hitter in baseball against left-handed pitching. And it seemingly happened just, overnight. And so, how he handles lefties is probably going to determine the ceiling. And if he can, again, obviously the home runs are going to go down just naturally, but if he can have success against lefties at roughly, 30% or 70% of what he did last year, rather, he's probably going to hit 40 plus home runs again. Like, it really does come down to that. Cause I think we know against right-handed pitching, he's going to get the ball in the air. He's going to get it pull side. He's going to just absolutely crush some home runs, and use the porch in T-Mobile Park perfectly and all that. And I think we know that even he regressed defensively last year. He just wasn't as good. And I'm not here to argue with anybody. That's just an objective fact. He wasn't as good last year as he was the year before, but we still know he's
right. And the writers determined that as well. He wasn't a finalist for the Gold Glove this time around.
No.
He was still good. He just wasn't great.
No, he wasn't a Gold Glover. He was above average. And that's fine, especially when you're hitting 60 home runs. This isn't a shot at Cal, but there's no question about it. He was worse defensively last year, more than made up for it offensively. So it all came out fine. But if he does hit fewer home runs this year, he needs to be, doesn't need to be, he'll still be the best catcher in baseball, but he should be a little bit better defensively, and we'll see how that works out. Maybe it's just the start of a decline, and it's a slow decline again. It's tough to say what's fair for Cal because, last year we were like, what if he hits 40? And we're like, yeah, maybe. What if he hits 50? No chance he hits 50. And then he hit 50.
Well, what if he breaks Griffey's record? I don't know if he'll get there.
Not. He's going to break Mantle's record. Yeah, probably not. And just kept going. So I don't know. It's tough to say, like, what is a good over under on home runs for him? Is it like 42.5? Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, it's like, all right, so he's going to regress, but like how much though, especially in terms of the home run department? Like, could he still hit 50? I mean, sure. I think realistically, I think a good place to put him is like somewhere in the 35 to 45 range, 40 to 45 range, which I mean, that's a pretty big range, but
sure. Yeah. Again, how does he do against lefties? If he goes back to 23, 24 Cal against lefties, you probably on the much lower end of that, almost certainly. If he's going to regress some, but if he's still pretty good against lefties next year, you're probably closer to the 40 to 45, end of that range. And so that's kind of the big thing for him, but also staying healthy. Again, the caveat we will throw at the top of every episode, which, Cal really hasn't stayed healthy. He's played every day, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily been healthy the entire time.
No, but he's always been playing through something, which I mean, like a lot of guys are probably playing through something, but I mean,
obviously when you're
even him more so. Yeah. I mean, how many times have we seen, Cal like leaned over after getting hit by a pitch somewhere in his thigh or wherever, like he's the amount of bumps and bruises that guy, accumulates over the course of a year is insane.
Catchers, a lot of wrist, finger, injuries type of thing, bruises, broken thumbs that somehow you play through.
Yeah.
And catch like 250 pitches on. So we know Cal's a warrior, but obviously even if he's still playing, injuries could impact his overall performance. So that's always the caveat to throw on top of there too. But it's just tough to say, like, what is the floor? Because what's possible is that Cal actually is better this year, like a more productive player this year than he was last year, despite hitting 20 fewer home runs. I mean, we kind of see this, like, for example, Barry Bonds, his 2001 season, he had 73 home runs. Believe it or not his best offensive year ever.
Right.
Not really close either.
Didn't we talk about this like off air a few days ago? Like it was like 2004.
Yeah. He had like a 260 WRC plus or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
his on base percentage was over 600. Like, and he still hit 40 home runs.
In 2004, Barry Bonds slashed 362, 609, 812.
I'll take the under on that for Cal.
By the way, that wasn't his best season by WRC plus. 2002 was.
Oh Lord. So again, Barry Bonds is a freak. He's also a jerk, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
2004, he put up a 37.6% walk rate with a 6.6% strikeout rate. Anyway, this isn't a Barry Bonds episode, but that's just insane.
Put him in the Hall of Fame already. Anyways. But the point is that, like, you can hit fewer home runs and be a better overall offensive player because, in Cal's case, he's probably not going to see as many pitches as he did last year. The walk rate's probably going to go up naturally. And so long as he doesn't start chasing to try and compensate for that, he's probably going to have a higher on base than he did last year. And his on base last year was really good. So, it's not something that's necessarily a bad thing. So is he going to get enough pitches to hit, 45, 50 home runs? But ultimately, I think Cal's probably going to set a new career high in on base percentage. I think he's probably going to lose, I would say 15 to 20 home runs off of last year's total. But I think it's possible that he's actually a better offensive player because of the additional walks and because of the, additional non-outs, just because teams are going to be afraid to pitch to him. On base percentage is still the most important stat in baseball. It's the rate at which you don't make an out, and not making an out is the whole point of hitting. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, could he go 60 again? Sure, 1 in a
I mean,
million
if he
shot.
does, like,
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Really
He can
fun
retire.
year.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like, it's over. The debate is he a Hall of Famer? It's over if he hits 60 again. Of course he is. No
Yeah.
show. He could hit 60 again and retire, and he would still belong in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, could he hit 40 again? Sure. I mean, outside shot, does he break Salvador Perez's record again for home runs by a catcher in a single season without breaking his own record? Sure. I mean, what was Salvi
Yeah.
at? 45 as a catcher? I know he had like 48 overall, but I think it was.
Oh, as a catcher, I think it was like.
Or is it 42?
I thought it was like 41 or 42. Yeah, I forget now.
So he might do that again, but he's also going to DH a fair amount. So, yeah, I think Cal's going to have a really nice year this year. I think he's going to be an all-star. I think he'll be in the MVP discussion. Do I think he's going to be, number 2 at the end of the year, finish runner-up or win it? No, because I think the only shot he had of beating Judge was to get to 60, and even that wasn't enough, despite being, a everyday catcher who caught a ton, more innings than anybody, and hit 60 home runs. You still couldn't beat Aaron Judge. So if he's not hitting 60, I don't think he has a shot to win that award, but I think there's a shot.
Unless Judge gets hurt.
Sure. You never know. But I think there's a shot that he actually replicates closer to the total value that he did last year, despite hitting a lot fewer home runs, because I think the defense could get a little bit better. I think the on-base percentage could go up.
So you still think like a 7 to 8 win season is on the table for Cal? Because it was 9 last year.
Sure. I think 7 is I think that's doable. 8, maybe 2. But yeah, floor of 5, I think is probably inevitable with his defense and the amount he's going to get on base. But yeah, could he get to 7 or 8 wins? Yeah, I think he could. I think it's possible. I don't want to put anything past him.
He's never finished lower than 4.2 in a season. And that was his first full year in baseball.
Right. And now with the walks that we know are going to come just as a result of this, again, the defense could get a little better from where it was last year to this year.
Yeah.
I don't think that will be able to properly factor this in, but we know Cal's going to do very well with the ABS system as well. And that'll add to his value. Again, I don't think that they'll calculate that in his WAR, but just in general, could he be a 7-8 win player? Yeah, I think he could. The WAR might say he's a 6-win player, but blah, blah, blah. We'll see where it ends up, but I'm expecting Cal to have another very good year and probably be top 10 all-star or a top 10 MVP guy. I just don't think he's going to finish, number 2 or win it. I don't think we're going to see a repeat of that in 2026.
All right, so we'll finish up on Cal and then talk about Julio in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Gametime. MLB opening day is almost here, and you can feel it. I'm talking fresh starts, big expectations, that first crack of the bat. Oh, we are so back. Whether it's a breakout rookie or a division race that goes down to the wire, there's nothing like being in the ballpark for it. The only problem, getting tickets can feel like a grind. Long queues, surprise fees, prices jumping at checkout. You know how it goes. That's where Gametime comes in. The Gametime app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps, and it's simple to use. The Gametime guarantee means you get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. So what you see is what you pay, period. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Baseball is back, and you can lock in by joining the Everydayer Club, which gets you ad-free episodes and access to our group chat on Discord. This week only, you can use the promo code SPRING, that's SPRING, for a free month. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com or tap the link in the description to learn more. And in the description, you can also find the link to vote for round 1 of our top 50 Mariners Moments tournament. And wow, I'm just in awe of the battle going on between Felix's last start and Victor Robles' Superman catch against the Astros.
Yeah, things are getting spicy. At last check at the beginning of this episode, I think I got to wait a couple more minutes. We'll just roll with what we have. At last check, we were at exactly 700 votes.
Yeah.
And Felix Hernandez, final start, has received 350 of those, meaning Victor Robles' catch has received 350 of those. So
insane.
It is
insane.
A tie after 700 votes. Keep in mind, voting will remain open through the weekend. We will close it Monday morning. There's not an exact time. It's like whenever I wake up on Monday morning and remember to do it. So like voting early on Monday might tip the scales in the favor of your favorite moment. But yeah, that one is absolutely insane. I will say there are a couple other matchups that are tightening a little bit. Some other matchups are getting closer. There is the Lupinel's ejections versus oh shoot, I forgot who the other. That one's tightening.
You put the tournament together, man.
I know.
You should know.
I had to see 50 moments. Okay, I'm forgetting who they're seated, where they're seated at. Also, an Ichiro Spider-Man catch versus Griffey breaking his wrist. That one is shrinking a little bit. That's now under 60-40 matchup. So there are a couple other matchups that are very much, still to be determined. And with a strong weekend, there are a couple other potential upsets that could happen here, but. No, right now it's all eyes on Victor versus Felix, and I guess I'm just surprised how many people hate Felix Hernandez. That's what I'm gaining from this poll.
Okay.
Call him your king for 15 years now.
I personally am surprised how many people. I'm personally surprised by how many people are just like, 2025 that sucks, but 2019 that was peak Mariners.
We are going to have like 4 moments from 2025 in the round of 2, or in the second round. I mean, so.
The haymakers that are being thrown by these 2 moments, though, it's insane.
Yeah,
so last night you text me and you're like, Felix is up by 14 votes.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, there. I was like, okay, there it is. He's pulling away.
Snowball. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
This morning I wake up, Robles is up by 6, and then I
so you made up 20 votes.
Yeah.
Overnight.
And then I check again, I don't know, 20 minutes later, and now the vote's down to 4, and then I check. 30 minutes after that, we're down to 1 vote difference. And then before we start the show, I show Ty the screenshot. He saw it.
Yeah.
50-50, 700
perfectly balanced.
50-50, right down the middle. Yeah.
Make Thanos shed a tear.
There's a chance, and Ty and I haven't voted yet, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to vote
on
for
opposite
Felix.
sides.
Yeah, he's going to vote for Robles. So we'll see who wins at the end. We do have a tiebreaker, which I didn't think we would need, but we do have one set up. I don't think we'll ultimately need it. I think one of these 2 moments will pull away this weekend.
I'm rooting for the tie at this point.
I am too.
I want maximum chaos.
I am. I'm rooting for the tie as well, but I don't think it's going to happen. I imagine getting a tie on, polling 100 people is statistically improbable. 700 votes, and we are deadlocked. Is insane. And again, we'll see where it is this weekend. Maybe voting really slows down this weekend. Maybe it explodes. But the fact that this is a 50-50 matchup with 700
at
votes,
exactly 700 votes, crazy,
is insane and lucky and all of that. And so, regardless of where this ends up, maybe one of these 2 moments ends up winning by 4 or 5%. I don't know. Easily the most fun thing that we've tracked in our polling sample. We do these polls every once in a while, usually fan polls and stuff like that, but this one's a little different. And by the way, if you guys like this poll style fan interaction thing, you might want to get used to it, because when that lockout comes, we're gonna have to get creative about content. So
oh boy, moving on. Let's put a bow on Cal real quick. So yeah, like you said, what he does against lefties is really the key here, because he went from a 183 average against lefties in 2024, that was a 97 WRC plus, to a 281 average and a 186 WRC plus. And by the way, that's not with because of the torpedo bat or whatever. No, he was using his regular bat that he always has used. I don't know if he maybe changed it up a little bit, but it's a normal bat that he was using from the right side. He only used the torpedo from the left side. So you can't say that's the reason. I don't. Yeah. I mean, whatever the rhyme or reason was for it, keep doing that.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what makes it is Cal actually this elite hitter, not just a really good baseball player? I don't know, but because the improvements from the right side were legitimate and they were a big sample and all of that, like, yeah, that's kind of because against, right-handed pitching, he was always kind of near elite or at least very, very good. It's just the right side pulled him back so much. And a 97 WRC plus isn't terrible. You can live with that.
Yeah.
But 180, and he was like, what, a 160 from the left side? Like, yeah, that's superstardom right there. And so we'll see how he handles it, how this year goes for him. But I'm pretty confident that Cal is, well, he's not going to be, a 9-win player and hit 60 home runs. I'm still pretty confident he's going to be a legitimate, top 10 MVP candidate this year, which would give the Mariners 2 of those guys.
So Julio Rodriguez, once again, it was another year where it was a tale of two Julios. First half, relatively disappointing. He was still good. 252, 313, 417 entering the All-Star break. That's a 110 WRC plus. But you want to see Julio higher than that in terms of the WRC plus. 110 is solid, but that's not like he's one of the faces of your franchise. He needs to be better than that. So he goes into the All-Star break. He got invited to the All-Star game, wound up bowing out. Randy takes his place on the All-Star team. And during that time, Julio, as he said, recently in camp, kind of learn more about himself and what kind of hitter he wants to be. And coming out of the All-Star break, it was a little bit of a slow burn. I mean, like he actually going into the All-Star break, that Detroit series, he was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then coming out of the All-Star break, it was a little bit of a slow burn, but then he really, really took off. And, that Atlanta series was like really like the turning point because like the Mariners were at their worst moment all year on that road trip. Mm-hmm. And Julio essentially single-handedly pulled them out of the depths in that second game of that Braves series.
Yeah.
With the 2 home runs, he makes that incredible catch. Like, Julio took over. And that's what we've all been kind of waiting for really since August 2023 for him to truly like take over and go, I got you guys. Right. Mm-hmm. And that continues on into the postseason. He has a fantastic postseason, some big time moments. Unfortunately, that postseason run ends with him creating the final out of the Mariners' entire season. With Cal on deck, Mariners only down by 1. It was a bad strikeout. Yeah. Have to wonder how much that moment has replayed in Julio's head over the course of the winter. Maybe it hasn't at all. Who knows? But he's a highly competitive dude who we all know he's very, very hard on himself. He wants to be the best in the world.
Even if you asked him how much that's weighed on him, and I'm sure people have. I mean, reporters are down there now. I haven't seen any of the quotes, but even if you've asked him, I assume his answer would just be no. But we wouldn't know that for sure, right? Because Julio is going to say no, and he's gonna try and turn the page. But will that actually linger in the back of his head? I think it might have been 21-year-old Julio, 22-year-old rookie Julio, and the 2023 season and all that. Does it now? I don't know. It might. I'm not saying it definitely doesn't, but I don't know. There's just something about Julio, entering year 5 now. Mm-hmm. I just kind of feel like he's seen it pretty much everything there is to see in baseball by now, and he's very young, but he's also a veteran, and so I think he's probably learned how to flush these things pretty quick. But who knows? It's certainly possible. We can't say for sure one way or the other.
Well, and it's a different animal, right? Julio's put a lot on his shoulders. He has said how much it means to him to bring a World Series to Seattle and, be the first to do that, of course. And you get so close. And, we know how much it hurt us. Right. But those guys were literally on the field and had to experience it. And Julio, again, face of the franchise along with Cal, like, he was the final out. He had to walk off the field while the Blue Jays are celebrating all of that. Like that has to weigh. And I mean, we heard the scream, when Brian Wood was getting interviewed post game, like that, like you could hear the pain in Julio's voice.
Sure.
And so, I've said this over the course of the offseason, whether he admits it or not, it feels like Julio, has a real chip on his shoulder now. And it feels like, and while he's, always been incredibly motivated as a player, I feel like now there's like an extra bit of motivation, getting that close to the World Series and all that. And
I don't know
so
if that's
I'm
a good thing
excited.
or a bad thing.
Who knows? But I'm excited to see what that could potentially mean for Julio moving forward.
Sure. I mean, I know he's talked about like not being sure what type of hitter he wants to be in the
Mhm.
past and how that's kind of carried throughout seasons where he's kind of tried to, I want to be this guy today and tomorrow I'm going to be this guy. And it's like, no, you just have
Yeah.
to pick somebody and you have to play that role. You have to be that person. And
And
we've
going back
seen,
to what you were saying about like, I don't, not knowing if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it's up to the players, ultimately what you do in any sport. What do you do with motivation? Do you turn that into positive or negative energy ultimately?
right. Julio seems like a guy who probably is going to turn it into something positive.
Yeah.
So
And that's
we'll see how
why I'm
that goes.
excited about it.
Sure. But again, you never know. I think the bigger thing will be like, has he truly committed to who he wants to be at the plate? And he says he
Yeah.
has, because in the past we've seen him kind of be the guy who just chases hits and just tries to flip singles past the second baseman. And then we've seen him, the next day try to pull everything, including the slider low and away. And it's a big whiff pitch or he just rolls over. Like, we know who Julio is. Like, we know who he can be, and he just has to put it together for an entire season. And Julio sounds really confident, and so do other people. I've heard Shannon Drayer talk about it quite a bit. I've heard Ryan Divish talk about it, that it just, Julio seems like there's no second guessing. There's no, panic. There's no like major changes. He's dropped people from his circle and he's kept it pretty tight.
Yeah.
He's not remember Julio used to have like 3 different hitting coaches. That like he had 3 different hitting coaches in like 3 years, and I mean like personal hitting coaches, not Mariners hitting coaches. But he seems to have something figured out with Edgar and Magallanes and Seitzer, and I think he feels pretty comfortable. I think we're going to see Julio be consistently more pull side this year, and I think he's kind of the hitter he's determined to be. Is that he's going to drive the ball to left field, left center field. Doesn't mean he can't go to the opposite field. We know he can. And we know he can do damage to the opposite field, but I think he's kind of figured out, this is the hitter I'm going to be. This is who I want to be. And even when I struggle, I'm going to continue to be this guy. Doesn't mean he won't make little adjustments. Doesn't mean he won't, make a few tweaks here and there. Every hitter does. Even the best in the world have to make some tweaks every now and then. Every hitter is going to struggle at some point. Even the best. Shohei Ohtani has bad weeks. Aaron Judge has bad months. Like these guys, it happens to everybody. So again, it's not like he's going to be perfect and he's just going to be the best player on the planet for 6 months straight. But it's, can you limit the bad to 10 days instead of 4 weeks? Can you find a way to not have 6 home runs entering late June, so you don't have to hit 10 in 12 days to kind of be a normal middle of the order guy? And I do think that having some help around him is going to help. Julio has been a guy who really wants to be the guy. He wants to be the dude who gets the big hits, and he wants to be the guy that everybody wants up. And he's actually been better in those spots than a lot of people think. You look at his numbers in high leverage situations, they probably blow a lot of people away. But you look at now obviously Cal has kind of ascended into superstardom. He's got a legitimate hitter who makes a ton of contact behind him, and Josh Naylor. Randy Arozarena's here again. Now you've added Brennan Donovan, so there's more of a leadoff guy in front of you. I do feel like having guys that's like, hey, JP, if Julio's, hey, I didn't get it done, but I know Josh is going to get it done. I'm not going to let that weigh on me. You can just go out there and you can hit. You don't have to worry about being the guy to get it done, because you trust the guy behind you to get it done. Not that you don't want to be the guy, but it's just like, if it just doesn't happen, that's okay, because I know I have my teammates behind me, and this is at least 1 through 5, or as we talked about, 9 through 5, when you have JP on the bottom to flip over the lineup. It's probably the deepest lineup we've seen in the Mariners in the Julio era. So, I mean, maybe last year is a little bit better too. But, and what happened last year when the Mariners got Naylor and they got Gino? What coincided with that? Julio got a lot better after those guys showed up.
Right.
So, I think there's less pressure on him from himself. I think there's going to be less pressure on him from the fan base, and the fan base really needs to cut this guy some slack. I know most of us love Julio, but there is a very loud minority that seems angry that Julio Rodriguez, who's finished top 6 in MVP voting 3 times, I believe, there seems to be some kind of anger that he is not Aaron Judge, which is frankly, it's ridiculous. So I think Julio is going to have a really good year this year. I think he's going to set career highs in a lot of categories. Is this the year that he goes, legitimate MVP candidate? I don't know. We say that pretty much every year. I'm tired of having.
It's a boring conversation at this point.
It is
because every time we preview Julio, it's just like, all right, is this the year? Is this the year he's an 8 to 9 to 10 win player? And look, and it goes without saying. It's like yesterday and the day before when we talked about pitcher injuries. It's like it goes without saying. Obviously, it could happen, right? Sure. Same thing with Julio. Like it's obviously possible. Like he could just explode at any given point. And especially like if he just has a more consistent season from point A to point B.
Yeah.
We've talked about this almost every year that we've talked about Julio now. Like if he has a more consistent season than he's had in his past, he's probably going to get there. He's probably going to be a 7, 8, 9 win player because that's kind of the pace that he tends to go on when he finally turns the corner.
Yeah, Julio essentially is, Julio essentially gains about 3.5, 4 wins on his overall total in the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if he could just be a little bit better in the first 3 months of the season, naturally he's going to be, instead of being at the All-Star break at 2 wins, he's going to be at the All-Star break at 3.5. And then he just continues that and he's going to be at 7 or 8 at the end of the year. So, and again, there's going to be peaks. There's going to be valleys. He's a human, right? He's not a machine. He's going to make outs. He's going to have bad games. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to look up. Julio's going to, at a minimum, he's going to play Gold Glove caliber defense in center field. He's going to hit about 30 home runs. He's going to steal about 30 bags. Could he go 40-40? Sure. He's certainly capable of it. Could he hit 300 this year as opposed to 265, 270? Sure. He's certainly capable of it. It's just, will he? I don't know. I don't want to predict it because you know what? The guy who hits 265 and goes 30-30 and plays Gold Glove defense, that's a damn good player.
Yeah.
And it's a player that 29 other teams really want. So if that's who he is, that's who he is. And that's fine. That is perfectly fine. You don't need him to be more than that. Can he be? Yes. And if he gets there, does that change the trajectory of the entire team? Yes. If Julio Rodriguez truly breaks out and he is the guy, the Mariners might be the best team in baseball. And yes, I'm counting the Dodgers. Again, it depends what Julio's teammates do around him. But if Julio can ascend to that 8 or 9 win pace, the Mariners might be the best roster in baseball. 1 through 26, 1 through 40. Maybe not, but 1 through 26, injuries, blah, 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 all that. Like that's how important Julio is. We talked about this. I talked about this last year. I said it over and over again. Cal was the best player on the team last year. Julio is the most important. Right. As Julio goes, he is he's the rising tide that lifts all the ships. Julio is that guy. And if he's just 30-30 and he's just a 6-win player, oh no, the Mariners are still World Series contenders. If he's an 8-win player, he's a 9-win player, the Mariners might be the favorites to win the World Series. So we'll see how it goes. But I think Julio is going to have his best year. I just don't know if it's going to be, 9-win season Julio. And by the way, a lot of great players never even sniff 9 wins. So it's not like this is just we should just expect him to ever be able to do that. That's a big number.
All right, we'll finish up on Julio in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring. Do it the right way with Indeed. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone. And on there, we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. So, Colby, you talked in the last segment about how, what the Mariners have built around Julio, how that takes some pressure off of him. I think there's also, the ability here for Julio to take some of the pressure off of the guys around him, specifically the guy ahead of him, who we talked about earlier on the show. That's Cal Raleigh. You talked about how Cal's probably not going to get many pitches to hit over the course of the season, at least not as many as he did in 2025, because the league has been put on notice as far as Cal Raleigh goes. So now it's kind of up to Julio to maybe make pitchers have to pitch to Cal a bit more than they want to, because at that point it's like, pick your poison. Because we did see at times in 2025, teams choose to pitch to Julio rather than Cal. But if Julio is that dude that we know he can be, then maybe they won't do that as much. I
mean, big part of that also is Donovan hitting leadoff. If he's a 360 on base guy, yeah, they might not have a choice but to pitch to Cal. So
and JP potentially in the 9-hole as well.
Yeah, yep, on the wraparound there. So I mean, it's very good possibility that Cal Raleigh's getting a lot of at bats with two guys on base, and then it's like, okay, do we walk Cal to load the bases for Julio, or do we take our chances here? And if Cal hits a home run, well, at least it's a 3-run homer, not a grand slam, which might happen if we pitch to Julio. So yeah, I mean, this is what we talk about, the lineup depth and all that, why it's important. Protecting a player is not really a thing, as much as people think, but it is just about like, hey, look, you have somebody ahead of Cal who puts a lot of pressure on the defense, the pitcher. You have somebody behind Cal who puts a lot of pressure on the pitcher, and you have somebody behind Julio who puts pressure on the pitcher as well. It's building those layers of tough outs and all that. So, if Cal or if Julio does explode, if this is the year, then pitchers are in a real tight spot because you're not going to walk both of them.
Right. It forces you to have to choose. Right. So again, while like protecting guys, yeah, like you said, that gets a bit overblown at times. But in this particular instance, again, you are posing a choice to the opposing team, to the opposing pitcher.
Mm-hmm. And again, a choice that might not be made, that they might not get to make, like, because Donovan's so good at getting on base, because JP's so good at getting on base. We'll see who's hitting eighth, but I mean, Cole Young certainly has some on base skills as well. Julio can add some protection for Cal, but it works both ways. Cal is going to give Julio more opportunities to hit with guys on base, probably guys in scoring position, unless he hits 60 home runs and Julio just happens to always face pitchers with the bases empty, which possible, but we've already seen it a couple times. Brendan Donovan single, score on a Cal Raleigh extra base hit. I think we'll see that a lot. And then Julio does his thing and he drives in Cal. And so, yeah, the two players can definitely help each other. And if both of them are playing at their ceiling at the same time, I mean, that's how you win 17 out of 18. Yeah. So, it's a very scary proposition for opposing pitchers.
And Julio has come out red hot in spring so far.
He's leaving today. He's gone. We will not see Julio for 3 weeks.
Yeah. He had in 9 at bats, he had 5 hits, including 3 doubles.
Yeah. No home runs though. I mean, if he was an elite player, he would have hit 1 home run at least.
Right, of course.
I'm so sick and tired of this.
He would have hit 10 home
player.
He would have hit 10 home runs in those 9 at bats.
Just saying, at what point do we send Julio down?
Oh, God.
If you think this is hyperbole, we're making this up. We are not. We've seen the comments.
Yeah. Some of you watching probably made those comments.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
Send Julio down. He actually sucks. Yeah. The future Hall of Famer sucks at baseball. Yeah. Okay.
By the way, like we were getting those comments while he was putting up a 110 WRC plus in the first half, which again, disappointing relative to expectations and relative to who Julio ultimately needs to be. Still a good player though.
Do you know how many teams would kill to have a 110 WRC plus Gold Glove caliber center fielder? Because like the number of teams who have that guy is like 4.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to get into it. We'll probably get into this on our live stream, but it's the whole JP Crawford thing, except like Julio is Julio and JP Crawford is JP Crawford. Like that's the difference there. But like, why are you guys so bored with great players?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's just like, don't get bored with consistency.
Yeah.
Like
not in baseball.
Julio is incredible. Julio's an incredible baseball player. Like incredible.
You're watching a Hall of Famer play baseball right in front of your eyes.
He's put up essentially 3 6-win seasons already in his career.
He's 25.
He's 25 years old. He hasn't even hit his prime yet. Like what we consider to be an athlete's prime is still like 2 years away.
28, yeah. 27, 28, 29, 30 is typically what we view as a prime of a player.
It would be cool to see him get some more walks, though. That hasn't really been like a huge part of his game. It would be cool to see Julio get some more walks and get that on base percentage up a bit more. Mm-hmm. You know, because obviously we know what he can do once he gets on base.
Yeah.
You know, he can easily turn a walk into a double. The flip of a switch. So
I mean, we saw it last year. He won a game against the Twins by infield single. Stole second base, overthrow, moved to third, and he scored on a single. We saw him against the Guardians. He had an infield single that scored 2 runs.
Yeah.
On what was really a routine ground ball to the second baseman, and then he just beat it out. Allegedly, technically, legally, he did beat it out. The call stood. And the Mariners won that game. And so we know Julio putting the ball in play, just doing that over and over again is going to collect Julio quite a few hits, just because at 6'4", 235, 240 pounds, he's still the fastest guy on the field, unless Byron Buxton is there and they're playing the Twins. Right. It really is insane how fast that guy is.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Once again, if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. For Colby Patnode, I'm Tidy Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Tidy Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11 and CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.